Back to follow-up segment tonight. As we reported last night, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Minister Louis Farrakhan, and Father Michael Pfleger will all get awards in Chicago tomorrow night. Ceremony is being driven by the Reverend Wright, who is actually awarding himself and the others living legend status, if you can believe it. Weird thing about the story is not just Wright is giving himself an award, but nobody's covering it, not even the Chicago media. Joining us now from the Windy City, Hermaine Hartman, the publisher of Indigo, a weekly African-American newspaper in Chicago. So we were a little, we had to dig this story out. I mean, we looked at the Chicago media, nothing. Even after last night, after we reported it, zero today. Why is the blackout? Why is there a news blackout? This is a pretty big event. Farrakhan, Wright, Pfleger, all on the same stage, living legends. How come they're not talking about it?
You would have to ask them that. But, Mr. O'Reilly, it is not unusual that events in the black community in Chicago by major press is not covered. That's not unusual.
But this is big. This is big. I mean,
but it's not unusual. There are a lot of stories about that happens untold, mistold, retold. This is not unusual.
Are you annoyed by the lack of coverage? Does this annoy you? No, you don't care?
No.
Well, let me give you this. Let me give this scenario. All of these guys are very controversial guys, as you know. Okay. If David Duke showed up in Chicago, David Duke showed up and was getting a Living a Legend award given to him by some crazy Nazi group or whatever, I guarantee you the media would be all over it. They would be going wild.
But Mr. O'Reilly, probably a bad example of Duke. These men are of our community, and they're well respected. They have all large churches, and so the place will probably be packed, and maybe tomorrow the media will cover it.
But this see my point, Ms. Hartman. You have to see my point. Whether you like these guys or not, and you like them, but obviously we have Farrakhan, who's anti-Semitic. There's no question about that. We have Reverend Wright, who's anti-American. There's no question about that. And Pfleger, who sympathizes with both. So all of that's controversial. You bring a guy like Duke in, who's anti-black, all right, and who's anti-whatever he's anti, and the media would just swarm. In fact, that thing wouldn't even go. They'd shut it down. They would shut it down.
You're taking people, once again, you take these people out of context.
No, I don't.
You've got to look at them. No, yes, you do.
Their own words prove my point.
You got to look at them where they are. They all have large churches. They can fill this place, and I'm sure it will be packed. This is a book signing party that Reverend Wright is having for the new book that he has done, A Sankofa Moment, which is the history of Trinity Church. And so they will discuss it. It's a book signing party. It will be well received and probably packed to the rafters. And for downtown media, major mainstream media, not to cover it is not surprising.
You know what it is? Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion.
All the time in Chicago, this happens.
Here's my opinion. Why they're not covering it. All right, I want you to react to it. They're afraid.
Why are they not?
No, I'll give you my opinion. I want you to react. They're afraid. The mainstream media in Chicago is afraid. Here's what they're afraid of. The television media, the local television stations, is afraid if they cover it that somebody will say something negative and then they'll get calls and people will pick it and this and that. The newspaper media, and there's only one paper in Chicago anymore, the Trib, is basically saying, do we really want to get involved with this and say negative things about these guys because we know all kinds of grief is going to come down.
But there might not be anything negative.
They're afraid.
No,
it's a big story. That's the only explanation. It's huge.
Mr. O'Reilly, this is Chicago media. They are not afraid of anything. Trust me, they are not. Let me give you an example. Last week, Minister Farrakhan had Savior's Day. There were 20,000
people listening to him say all kinds of vile things. He said all kinds of vile things last week, and 20,000 people stood up there and go, "Yay!
And
be more vile."
All the media was there. It was well media attended. So they're not afraid. They cover these gentlemen all of the time.
It wasn't white media attended. It might have been black media, but not white media.
No,
they're afraid.
It was white media attended.
Not much.
All of the news stations.
Not much.
All 2579, all of the newspapers, Sun Times and Tribune, carried the story.
All right, one more real quick. You know, I did this last night, Ms. Hartman. I don't know whether you saw it or anything like that. It got a huge rating.
I heard about it.
Huge.
I heard.
Huge rating. Millions and millions of people watched, okay?
You're going to help pack the place.
Okay, good. I don't care whether people go or not. It's America. If they want to go hear this stuff, they can go hear this stuff. I'll tell you this. No other national program, and believe me, they could use the ratings, Ms. Hartman. I'm beating them 5-1. They could use them. They won't touch it.
Well,
They're
Mr.
afraid.
O'Reilly,
Give me the last word. Go ahead.
You do the controversy, you do the sensational, and this is a story that you track. You track these guys.
You bet.
But I'm telling you, it will be good. I wish you could be there.
Yeah, that would
moment.
If I were there, that would elevate the story to another level. But I'll tell you what, I'd love to interview Farrakhan and Wright and Pfleger one-on-one. Ms. Hartman, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming on. Plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening.